Hello and welcome to Film Lovers. I'm Sonia Chung. I'll be talking to people who work in the film industry and who are also avid film lovers. Today we're doing a special and I'll be talking to my very special friend. He's been on many times, but we all know him very well because he's like a regular now. Tom Jolliffe. Hello, Tom.
Hi Sonia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Looking forward to this.
Is it really cold on your side? It's freezing over here.
It is very cold. I've had to turn the heating up. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So, um, so I should stress that we are pre-recording this because Chinese New Year's coming up next week. So, I'll release it on the weekend most probably. So I guess we should start by saying, what do you normally say to say Happy Chinese New Year? Do you say 新年快乐 or do you say 恭喜发财?
I normally say 新年快乐.
新年快乐, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always say
That's my preference.
Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it? Or I say
Yeah.
I always say 恭喜发财. So I guess we should start off. We're going to talk a little bit about Chinese New Year, and I think that's a good way to introduce our Chinese New Year special. So, and you'll be doing it. So you'll be doing all the talking this time. So, so first of all, I guess we should start off by saying, what is this year going to be? What animal do you know?
What is it this year? Is it the tiger?
Yeah, it's a tiger.
Yeah,
The year of the
yeah,
tiger. So
yeah.
basically,
What animal are you?
I'm a monkey.
Yeah, a
What about
cheeky
you?
monkey. I'm a rooster.
Oh, you're a rooster.
Yeah.
So
I think I remember you mentioning you were a monkey because my Lulu, my daughter, is a cheeky monkey as well.
oh, is she?
Yeah.
That's really funny. So, I guess we should quickly talk about the horoscope. So, how many animal signs are there? There's, do you know?
12.
Yeah.
I don't think I could name all of them though.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to help you? So there's
Yeah.
the rat.
Yeah.
Actually, I tell you what. Maybe the best thing to do is to do it in order. Oh, I guess we should sort of start off by saying how it all started. So, in the Chinese New Year, there was a race, wasn't there? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has your wife
I,
told?
I, I wa- I wasn't there, no. But,
No, no.
so,
So there were 12
I'm not that
animals
old.
in
Yeah.
12 animals in the race. There was a rat, an ox, a tiger, a rabbit, a dragon, a snake, a horse, a goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. And that's the order it goes in on the Chinese horoscopes as well.
Yeah.
So basically, I can't remember the story by heart, but basically the rat won the race. And when you look into the Chinese horoscopes, so for instance, you're a rooster, aren't you?
Yeah.
Can I be naughty and ask what year you're born in?
1981.
Oh, so you're 1 year younger than me.
Yeah.
1981. So in the animal signs, there's also 5 elements. Do you know about this?
I didn't know about the elements, no.
Yeah, so basically because it's every 12 years that your sign comes around,
Yeah.
there's 1 year for each specific element. And that element, because there's obviously the 5 elements, so there's earth, wind, fire, metal, or sometimes they say gold. You know, they vary. It's the same
Yeah.
thing, but they always have a little, some say this and some say that. So there's, what did I just say? Fire, earth, wind,
Water?
water, and
Yeah.
metal. So you would be a gold rooster. So you're a metal rooster. Yeah, metal gold rooster.
Metal rooster, that sounds, like do you remember Robot Wars from Craig Charles?
Yeah.
Metal Rooster, that would be my robot name, maybe.
And hang on, I'll quickly read your horoscope. So, it specifies your exact character, because even though there's like a generalization of each animal sign, depending on what year you are, it tends to be a bit more specific and who you're
Yeah.
compatible with, etc., etc. So I'm just trying to find you out. Hang on. Horoscope. Right. So hang on. No, hang on. What did I just say you were? A gold,
I'm a metal rooster.
a metal rooster. Yeah, metal or gold. I think. So some say gold and some say metal, but it's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's just one of the elements. So there's a quick thing that comes up here in Google. So people with Chinese zodiac rooster born in 1981 have clear and calm mind and are strong logical thinking ability. At the same time, they have great perseverance in the things they like. They are very frank and never blame others behind their backs. Is that right, do you think?
That's actually quite. Yeah, that's quite close, really.
Yeah, I mean,
That's better than Mystic Meg, anyway.
yeah. there's I mean, that's a very brief thing that came up, a brief summary that came
Yeah.
up on Google, but there's obviously links that go into in more detail and say a lot more about the
Yeah.
your character. So yeah. So basically, so you're a metal rooster and I'm a
Yeah.
metal monkey because I'm 1 year before
Yeah.
you. So yeah. So this year is the year of the tiger. So and Chinese New Year will be on the second. Is it the 2nd or the 1st of February? 2nd, isn't it?
I think it's the first.
Let me check.
That's what Tesco told me, but they could be wrong.
Hang on, Chinese New
Don't
Year.
don't take Tesco's word for it.
Yeah, hang on. Chinese New Year this year. Um, date. I think you're right. Let's double check. Yes, you're right. It's the first. So it's Tuesday, the 1st of February, which is
Yeah.
Chinese New Year. So yeah, so that's basically how the order goes. So they follow their own calendar. They follow what's called the lunar calendar, don't they? They're not like
Yeah.
the Western horoscope where they go per each month and it's the same for each year. They follow their own thing. So yeah. Is there anything you want to say about a bit more about Chinese New Year? You might know more than me.
No, I think that's good. So, I
Yeah, is that a
mean,
good introduction, do you think? Okay.
yeah.
All
Do you
right.
have any plans for Chinese New Year?
Well,
Are
we're
you
going to
doing
go to
anything?
Chinatown on Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully, because Chinese New Year's on a Tuesday, um, I'd imagine it wouldn't be as busy because that's a normal working week. So, yeah, we're going to go for dim sum on Saturday. So I'm hoping there would be some celebrations and a dragon dance or a lion dance.
Yeah. I think so. In Chinatown, it should be. Yeah, it
Yeah,
should be quite good at the
it's
weekend.
lovely because actually they still kept all the lanterns up. So I don't know if that was just a conscious decision since COVID, but usually what happens is when it is Chinese New Year, it's kind of like our equivalent of Christmas, isn't it? They pull up lots of red lanterns,
Yeah.
and red is a lucky color for Chinese people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's lots of red, and we give out something called lucky money. Do you know about the lucky money? Lacy money.
I've never seen any of it, but yeah, I know what it is.
So basically, the tradition goes is that all the kids and single people get like little pockets of red. They're like in little bags of red
Yeah, little
paper bags.
pockets and
Yeah,
there, aren't
yeah,
they?
and people put some money in it. So it's just basically, just like a nice something. And
Yeah.
usually in Hong Kong and China, what they'll do is they'll have like sales going on at the same time. So it comes in at good time. It's good time to celebrate the Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And the Chinese tend to have not so much in Hong Kong, from what I remember, but definitely in mainland China, they have a good few days off, don't they? National holiday.
Yeah. So I mean, I teach some Chinese students, and they've got 4 weeks off.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's almost like they're, rather than the summer holidays we have here, they sort of have it in the winter time around
Yeah.
New Year.
Because I think most people that work, they tend to have like a whole, about 4 or 5 days off work or like a whole
Yeah.
week. So generally, a lot of them go traveling to see their loved ones. And then the trains and those buses get really packed. Have you seen them?
It can get mad. I think the last couple of years, though, obviously with COVID, it's been a bit
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, but you do
And
see photos of people like you see the crowded trains, right? And because there's no more
yeah,
seats left, there's people that just standing. And bear in mind, these are like really long haul trips, like like 6 hours of them standing up, and you got people with live chickens, and it's a strange way,
yeah,
isn't it, in China? Because obviously you've been there and I've been there and lived there and you also did. So it's a different way of life.
yeah. It's certainly interesting. I've done the crowded train thing, and I've done sort of yeah, those kind of trips in other parts of Asia as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They always leave
like hanging off the back of buses in Thailand. That's fun.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right then. So basically, well, you're my guest today. I mean, obviously you're normal my guest, but what we usually do is we do you and me, don't we? But we're
Yeah,
going to make it mostly your selection of your favorite Chinese movies. So, are you doing a top something, or are you just going to do a bunch of them like you did with the um, what do you call it? The very first show we did with
yeah.
foreign
So
films.
I think I'll probably do a bunch.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, is there anything we want to quickly say about Chinese New Year that we left out, like the tradition or anything? They have
Uh,
a big meal, don't they? They
yeah,
all get
usually, yeah.
together.
Food's very important, and just,
Yes.
being with
Oh,
family.
yes. This is a very good point actually that you you brought up. Food in Chinese culture is extremely important. They love to eat, don't they?
They do. I think I was definitely Chinese in a previous life.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, because yeah, I yeah, I do love food.
And the tradition is really, it's quite funny is that in Western culture, when you're full, then typically you finish everything on a plate and that says that you're full, right? So you're done.
Yeah,
But in Chinese culture, and I remember this as a kid when I went out with my aunt, my auntie Mency and my sister, we were like really young. She used to take us on like auntie, days out and stuff. Take us for lunch and then we'll, go to a buffet and then she'll put some food on our plate and then we'll eat it. And then seconds later she'll put more food on your plate. So
yeah.
basically
You never want to clear your plate, do
no,
you?
exactly. That's the
Yeah,
complete opposite. So basically, to tell people in Chinese culture that you're full, you always leave a tiny bit on your plate, don't you?
yeah. You
Yeah.
can't leave too much either, otherwise it might be offensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I mean, because it might be deemed that the food's not good enough for you,
Oh,
or you
that's
don't like
true.
it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because I remember me and my sister. I mean, bear in mind, I was probably about 8ish or something like that, and because we were so full all the time, we used to go. Oh, you're so cheeky. We'd get a napkin under the table and sort of try and put some food in there. Go to the toilet, throw it down the toilet. We come back and there's more food on our plate. So it didn't work. Um,
no,
but yeah, eventually, my mum told me that yes, you always leave a little bit on your plate. So that's what you have to do. All right then, Tom. So take it away, I guess. So what's your first favorite Chinese film? There could be anything
okay,
as long as it's in Chinese.
yeah,
Or if it's made in China as well, I guess that would count. No?
yeah. So I think most of my films are probably made in Hong Kong, but I
Okay.
think that's
That's the
yeah,
same thing. Yeah.
that'll
I
count.
mean
Yeah,
it's the same because they're
uh,
all speaking Chinese. So oh,
yeah,
is it
and that's
Cantonese or
where
Mandarin?
it can be. It
Both.
tends to be more Cantonese, but
Okay.
it can be both. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, we should
but
say so basically there's two dialects, aren't there? There's Cantonese and
yeah,
Mandarin. So Cantonese tends to be more of the Hong Kong and do they speak it Macau more than Mandarin?
I think Macau might be more Mandarin.
Oh,
I'm not too
okay.
sure on that one. Yeah,
And
or yeah,
also in the Guangdong region of China, yeah, where I
yeah,
worked there for a year, so they speak mostly Cantonese, but they do speak Mandarin too. So, and obviously there are
yeah,
people in Hong Kong too. So basically, yeah, Hong Kong's generally tends to be more Cantonese. There's 9 tones in Cantonese, And in Mandarin, there's 4 tones. So Mandarin's mainly the main language of China, but each place has its own dialect. So does your wife have where she's from? Where is she from? She's
She's
near
from
Beijing.
yeah, she's from the north, so she's in Shenyang, which is north of Beijing.
Okay.
So they have a very kind of distinct dialect in Mandarin. So you know, out in China, they find maybe if you're from the north and you're speaking Mandarin and you go down south,
Yeah.
you might have a few issues there. A bit like you can get by, but there's a few kind of differences here and
Well,
there.
that's it, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like England. There's so many regional dialects, and
yeah,
we won't be able to understand. So does she kind of speak? Well, I guess she's been in England for a long time now, so maybe her accent's kind of shushed down. But in Beijing, my dad told me, and a lot of people say this to me, in Beijing, they always have an R sound.
yeah. I think I've heard that. Yeah,
Yeah. So, for instance, if you say "ni hao ma," like "how are you," then they'll say "ni hao ma." It's like kind of there's sort of R sounds. So
yeah,
I think people generally tend to know straight away they tend to be
yeah.
from
So
Beijing.
Beijing is like the Bristol of China.
Yeah. And I often thought, what would it be like to, get someone from Beijing to meet someone from like Devon or something like it'd be funny. Anyway, so yeah, so there's 2 dialects generally. There's Cantonese and Mandarin. But mostly Cantonese in Hong Kong and Mandarin in China. All right, so take it away. What was your first choice?
Yeah, so like I said, I think most of mine will be from like Hong Kong
Okay.
because that's predominantly where most of the film output had come from,
Yeah.
particularly like say like 10 years ago. I think mainland China now is investing a lot more into films and doing a lot more of their own thing now.
Yeah,
And
and
they're
I guess
almost
at the
separating, yeah, from what Hong Kong are doing.
well then I guess and also I guess there's a censorship thing, isn't there? Whereas Hong Kong was
Yeah.
trying still, which is really sad, to be very what do you call it, capitalist. So
Yeah, I mean they've always the censorship always made its way over to sort of Hong Kong cinema anyway, but
okay.
not as much as the sort of the mainland films at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
All right.
but I think yeah, mainland is rising. Hong Kong cinema's kind of gone downhill a little bit as well.
And it's such
Maybe
a
because
shame, isn't it?
the
Because Hong Kong cinema at
yeah,
one point we talked about this was absolutely thriving, and it was so exciting.
yeah, and I don't think it's any sort of coincidence that it kind of went downhill after the handover.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I mean before that, the mid 90s, there was some, especially for myself as an action fan, there was so much great stuff coming out of Hong
Mm,
Kong.
definitely.
So yeah, I'm going to start then with
Okay.
Jackie Chan.
Okay.
The most obvious start I could start with. So uh, what I will say, I'm going to pick one of the first ones that really kind of blew me away from Jackie Chan was a film called Armor of God.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is
Tell
like
us
an
about that.
Indiana Jones kind of film.
Okay.
Yeah, so he plays like this. He basically goes around robbing tombs and old sort of sites, historical sites, to make money off like gems and things like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a kind of Indiana Jones adventure story, and they did two films. So they did Armor of God 1 and then Armor of God 2, Operation Condor. Uh, the first one is like he finds this secret society of like monks that he has to kind of, I think he has to rob something from them or something, or he has to get something back from them.
Mhm.
This magic sword or something. So lots of fights, lots of adventure. Uh, and then the second one, it's about an underground Nazi bunker full of gold. So yeah, he's tasked with kind of finding all this, and then there's people after him at the same time. But it's just classic Jackie Chan. Lots of fights, lots of stunts, lots of comedy. Just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then riffing on all the kind of Indiana Jones adventure as well. And they're set in foreign places as well. So
Okay.
it kind of takes everything out of Hong Kong. Um, and to some slightly more exotic places for him to do his thing. So I think, yeah, no, it's a really enjoyable couple of films.
Okay.
But yeah, the first one for me was the one that really kind of wowed me the most
Was
when I
that
was
one of his
sort of
new, his sort of first ones that came out?
yeah, it was like
Y
mid-80s.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it was just after he'd done things like Police Story and he'd kind of which was so new and fresh.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Do you wanna go on to one of the other ones? Hello? Okay, cool. So do you wanna go on to one of the other ones?
Yeah, so yeah, with Jackie Chan, anything from like the late 70s to the mid 90s in Hong Kong is brilliant, pretty much. So I will say now, I covered this briefly in the action one, so I won't do Hard Boiled. So that's one of my favorites, but I'll do The Killer.
Okay.
So this is another John Woo film. So you've got Chow Yun Fat
Mhm.
in it, and he plays a hitman, but he's like a hitman with a conscience because
Okay.
yeah, John Woo kind of likes complex characters,
Yeah.
and he's got this cop that's sort of chasing him,
Mhm.
and then there's gangsters that he's working for kind of double cross him and send one of his friends to kill him. So he's kind of being hunted by gangsters, and he wants to get the money from them that they owe him.
Mhm.
And then at the same time, he's trying to get money to pay for this operation for a singer who's been blinded.
Oh god.
So during a shootout, and he's responsible for it basically. So he befriends the singer afterwards, and she doesn't know that he's the one that shot shot near her and blinded her basically.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, so he's driven by guilt to sort of
Sure.
pay for this revolutionary operation in America. So it's quite complex. So there's the cop and the hitman end up sort of befriending each other reluctantly to
Mm.
kind of take on the bad guys.
Yeah.
But it's just yeah, like most John Woo films, there's lots of kind of shootouts and lots of action, but a lot of like emotional arcs as well in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously Chow Yun Fat's such a brilliant actor as well, so he
Yeah.
really kind of elevates it as well.
Did
So
you, ever see? Because when you were saying that he plays like a hitman with a conscience, that reminds me basically a bit of In Bruges. It's kind of the same sort of conundrum in a way. Not to that
yeah,
extreme, but
yeah, it's quite similar. Yeah, because he's sort of yeah, and in Bruges he's quite driven by guilt as well. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, the Colin Farrell character. I mean, obviously it's not the same, story or whatever, but it's yeah, but in a way, um, the Hong Kong films seem to be way ahead of their time because that was done like 2000. When was it? 9? Was it? When?
yeah, 2009ish, I think. Yeah, in
Yeah.
Bruges,
So
something like that. Yeah,
yeah, and I remember my cousin said that. Do you remember when Brokeback Mountain came out? And at the time, it was like a big controversy because it was about two gay cowboys, and you know
yeah,
there wasn't really anything in the mainstream movies about the two protagonists being a love story between two gay men. Um, and obviously that caused uproar for some people. But my cousin was saying that Hong Kong had done that like long time ago with who was that famous actor and singer? He passed away really young, didn't he?
yeah. Was it? It was Happy Together, I think, wasn't it?
Was it
Wong Kar
Leslie
Wai
Chang?
film. Yeah, yeah, Leslie Chang and was it Tony? Yeah, Tony Lung as well.
Oh, was it Tony Lung as well?
Yeah.
So
So
were
this
they?
was yeah,
Sorry,
it
go
was
for
a
it.
Wong Kar Wai film. So the guy who
Okay.
did Chungking Express and In the Mood for Love. So
Mm,
he loved working with Tony. Um, yeah, so yeah, Happy Together was kind of along those lines as well.
okay. And when did that come out?
That was one of his earlier films, I think. That was early 90s.
Okay. Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
way before, anything was like explored like that in mainstream cinema, Western world for sure, wasn't it? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
certainly with like mainstream things, yeah. So yeah, Brokeback Mountain was probably the first really kind of big mainstream one.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And obviously that was Ang Lee, wasn't it? So
yeah.
yeah. And
So
he's always courted a little bit of
well, I
controversy.
remember we were talking about this before because we were saying that he did that film. Um, what was it called? Uh,
Lust Caution.
Last Caution. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they
with
banned it
Tony
in
again.
China, didn't they? Because
They did, yeah.
it was really like like a bit too much for them. It was a bit taboo, and they censor everything very vigilantly. But my sister saw it and said, "Don't watch it with your parents." Bit like the Handmaiden, Tom.
Yeah, yeah. We won't we won't go into that one.
So, but she was an unknown actress, wasn't she? And then you said that she got a lot
Yeah.
of stick for it because basically, well, because of the nature of the film,
I mean, yeah, I mean,
and that was an
certainly
angry
from
film.
like yeah, from China, she got blacklisted for a few years
Oh,
from
did
that one.
she?
Yeah, and then it's the kind of film it wasn't really a big success in the West either.
No,
So it didn't really do much for her career this side really either.
no. Do you
Um,
think that the reason why it got so much, um, what do you call it, like acclaim or recognition was because it was known for its material, for being very raunchy, etc.
yeah, I mean, it was quite explicit. I think
Mm,
what it tends to happen is, especially back then, with when you're an actress, even just looking at from the Western point of view, if you come out quite early and do a film like that, it almost sort of stigmatizes you.
yeah,
You've got that attachment, even as good as the film was, and it was well received by critics, but then no one ended up watching it, so
no,
it kind of couldn't really find a big audience.
yeah. So
But
that,
she gets stigmatized, whereas Tony Leung's in it as well. I know he was very established, but for
yeah,
guys, it doesn't have the same kind of stigma, really.
no, I guess not.
Yeah,
So, all right then. So let's move on. So, and obviously we should point out that was also an Ang Lee film. So
yeah.
yeah, he's done quite a few controversial films, hasn't he?
He's had a few, yeah.
Did he do the
Uh,
one? Have you ever seen a film called Eat, Drink, Man, Woman? Didn't he direct that?
I think that was him, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
One of
sure. I've
his
never
earlier
seen it,
ones.
but I see bits of it, and it opens up with because I think the father it's centered around the family is a chef, isn't he? And it opens up
Yeah.
with him cooking. And as soon as I saw that scene, I was like, "That's." I was like, "Oh God, no more food, please." Because, like we said, the Chinese love to make food and eat. So, yeah,
Yeah.
food is very important for Chinese people, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they've done quite a few films about food, but then across Asia, there's been a few
Yeah.
famous films about food as well.
I mean, food is obviously very important for everyone, but um, I guess we should explain that for them, eating is a social thing. So it's so they, for instance, if you go to China, or they'll say like, and I used to get this a lot, and it was really strange, but my dad told me it's very normal. So they'll say like, "How are you? Have you eaten?" And it's like that you get
Yeah,
complete,
exactly, yeah.
yeah, you get like the cleaner saying that to you, and I mean, they were really lovely, the people who worked in the apartment I was living in, and a security guard was like, "Are you okay? Have you eaten?" In Chinese. It's like, "Yes."
Yeah. I mean,
But
yeah, they're unrivaled for hospitality, really, all pretty much unrivaled.
yeah, yeah. So food is very important because it's more of a social thing, and also food represents that you're wealthy and you're healthy, and
Yeah.
you're looking after
I mean,
yourself.
if you've got a bit of a tummy on you, you're considered quite, healthy.
Yes. And actually, it's funny that you say that because I remember when I was coming towards the end of my contract in China. I think I remember telling you this. The men walk around with their t-shirts showing their big stomachs hanging out, and I
Yeah.
remember thinking, why are you doing that? It's really not a nice sight. Put it away." And why? You know what I mean? Because they had the t-shirt rolled up to show it. And
Yeah,
apparently it's to do, like you said, because it means they're eating and they're healthy and stuff. So it's a complete opposite to Western culture, where you know, it's basically considered good for like men to be walking around with six packs and things like that. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't really show them off otherwise.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's basically. But yeah, Eat, Drink, Man, Woman was kind of like that. There's a lot of food and cooking involved. All right then. So shall we go on
Yeah.
to one of the other ones?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to stick with food, and this is a bit of a strange film. Uh, it's kind of related to New Year as well because it's called Dumplings.
Okay. Oh, I don't know.
So it sounds quaint and it sounds nice, but it's actually like a really sort of kind of art house horror film.
Oh God. Okay.
Uh, so based, do you know Bai Ling? So the actress, she's been in Red Corner, The Crow, uh, quite a few films like that. So she's kind of known to Western audiences.
Okay. I don't know who she is. I'll look
Yeah,
at her later.
yeah. So, but in like the late 80s and early 90s, if you wanted a Chinese woman in your film, in a Western film, you'd either go for Joan Chen or Bai Ling.
Okay.
So she's like one of the two that would get cut. Like Danny Trejo. If you want a Mexican, you go
Yeah. Yeah.
Danny Trejo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was one of the two or three kind of who got cast in everything.
Mm,
If you wanted a late female Chinese character.
sure.
Yeah. So Dumplings she plays this chef, and she's got this reputation that she's kind of young and beautiful looking, but she's actually in her 60s.
Okay.
And it, rumors start spreading about her dumplings and what might be in them, that they're kind of restorative. Uh, and then this middle-aged, like failing actress, kind of gets drawn to her. But she's the only one in her kind of circle who doesn't eat the dumplings because she's a little
Okay.
bit wary of what's in them.
Sure.
So it's kind of like this psychological horror, and she soon discovers a little bit more about the past of this chef played by Bai Ling.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's quite dark and a bit gruesome because she's used to be a gynecologist specializing in abortions. And so basically, well, you can sort of lead on from there what goes into the dumplings. But it's it's a quite a weird, but it's oddly kind of very interesting at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Does it
it's
make
like
you think of wanting dumplings now?
it did still make me want dumplings. Yeah, I, I'll stick with maybe like prawn and chive or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah,
you made me hungry, Tom. I want them.
yeah, it's one
But
of those films as well. They make the dumplings look very nice as well
oh,
until
is
you
it?
kind of until they get a bit more detailed at the end about what's going in them and how she's
Yeah.
making them.
And there's so many
Yeah,
different kinds of dumplings you can get, aren't there? There's
yeah,
hagao and is hagao? Yeah, hagao. Can you
yeah.
think of
That's
any more?
kind of dumpling. Yeah,
Yeah, and you can
uh, yeah. Is it shumai?
sumai. Oh yeah, sumai. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I never really liked sumai, but I like the I used to love tasubao when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's like fluffy, sort of white breadish, and in the middle
yeah,
it's
yeah.
roast
Steamed
pork.
buns, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're so good. Um, and what's the other one we ordered? I always order lots of chung fam,
Oh yeah, yeah. I
lots of
love
chung
that. Yeah.
fam with
Well,
prawns
that's
inside.
isn't that your family dish?
Yeah, we love chung fam, but you can get all kinds of different ones. You can get ones with pork and ones with beef and
Yeah,
vegetarian ones. So like yeah, I mean a lot of these dumplings they'll have like the outside's the same. They're usually made of rice flour. Um and then you can get all kinds of different ingredients put inside. So you can have a vegetarian option, you can have a beef chicken or whatever. So have you ever tried chicken's feet?
I have. Yeah, my
Oh,
wife got told off for laughing at me in a Chinese restaurant.
did you really?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, because I'd attempted to sort of give it a go, uh, and then she was laughing at me, so she got told off by the waitress.
Oh, that's really funny.
Because most like most Brits wouldn't try. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, well done for you. I mean, my dad tried to. He ordered it, and he said, like, "Why didn't you try?" And like, none of us wanted to try. And my friend tried it once, another time when I went had dim sum with a couple of friends, and he said he was chewing on a nerve, and I was like, that just put me off completely.
Mm. No,
So
they're not my favourite. I don't think
no,
I'd have it again.
I think it's a delicacy, isn't it? It's like
Yeah,
what's the other thing? Bird's nest soup. You ever tried bird's nest soup?
I haven't tried that. I've tried. I think is it silkworm or I've tried that.
Yeah.
And jellyfish.
Okay. I used to have
That
tried
was quite
jellyfish.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, the jellyfish is nice.
yeah,
Like for the appetizer.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really nice. Anyway, sorry, we're talking about food. But it is kind of related to Chinese culture and Chinese New Year because
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's all food related and the Chinese love their food. So it's very important. So anyway, back to dumplings. Sorry, we got kind of
yeah.
carried away.
I think dumplings. It's a quite an odd film, but it's really well made and well acted. Because Biling has kind of got a reputation in Hollywood for being a bit wild and a little bit.
Okay.
It's quite quirky. So I mean, if you ever look on her Instagram page, she's a bit. She's unique, shall we say? But yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh, it's Lulu.
I do know. Yeah. Okay.
Say hello
Yeah.
to Lulu for
Little bit.
me.
Yeah.
Hi,
Okay. Oh,
Lulu.
She's run off.
I just want to. She'll be back again, like last
You must
time.
have been hearing about food, so
Oh,
she just ran off
what
a
did she
bit.
say?
She wants to get some cake from the fridge.
Oh,
I didn't even know there was cake in the fridge, so I don't know where she's got that from. She might be a bit disappointed.
great minds think alike.
Yeah,
To carry on, what were you saying? So she's unique.
yeah. No, she's like she always plays kind of wild or quirky characters, but this was a bit different,
Mm,
and it was like also a first kind of film her back in China for quite a few years as well. So she mostly works in America.
okay.
Um, but yeah, no, she got quite a lot of critical acclaim for that. So it was quite a good reminder that she's a really good actress when she's got the right kind of role.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
film's kind of like arty and a bit sort of odd, but it's quite engaging, even
Yeah.
if it's quite dark.
All right then. Tom, I need to go to the toilet. Can I just quickly pause you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go on to your next choice.
Okay, so I've got to have a bit of your Aunt Maggie, I think. So
And I
yeah,
should point out she's not really my aunt.
yeah,
Just because we have
I
the same
still
surname.
yeah, I still think you should put in a good word for me.
Yeah, I will. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I think I'll go for Hero
Okay.
as one, and then I might do another of hers after.
Okay.
But yeah, Hero. So this is bit of an all-star cast with Jet Li, Donnie Yen, um, Maggie Chung, Tony Leung,
Hmm.
and probably a few other people that I've forgotten. But it's a big kind of martial arts kind of epic from the same director who did House of Flying Daggers.
Well, the
And quite a
colours
few
we were
others.
talking about, the colours in those films are absolutely
Yeah,
stunning.
they are. Yeah. So I mean, the film plays out. It's basically this story that's being retold, from several points of view.
Hmm.
Um, and then you get to see it from the point of view of Jet Li and the different encounters that he's had. So it's like a really amazing kind of martial arts epic
Yeah.
with amazing kind of set design, and each kind of different segment has its own kind of color scheme.
Mm.
So it's all from the sets and the costumes and everything else. But I think there's a story in the middle, like a love story between Maggie and Tony. I think that's
Okay.
the most kind of engaging part of
Yeah.
the whole thing. Yeah. because obviously they've had sort of previous together because they've done quite a few films together
Yeah.
before that. So,
I'd imagine Tony Leung, he must be very well paid in Asia, no? I mean, he's been in a lot of films, and I guess she has as well.
yeah, I mean, he's like, I mean, they used to call him and Chow Yun Fat like the Pacino and De Niro
Oh, did they?
of
Yeah, he lives
Hong
in
Kong
Hong Kong,
cinema.
doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they've always been kind of like at the top of the pile in the last
Okay.
maybe 30 years. But yeah, I think, he's an amazing actor.
He is. He's really
You,
good.
yeah, you can just say
Great
so
talent.
much without even having to, say anything.
Well, it's all his expressions and his looks, which is all
Yeah,
counter interacted with, when you're acting as well. So,
yeah.
um, so yeah, he's an amazing, and like you said, he's been going for a very good time, long time now. So he's got to be in his 60s now.
He is, I think he's 60 this year.
Yeah, he's still going
Yeah.
strong, which is like good for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and he's just made his Hollywood debut as well, I think, hasn't he? So
Has he?
yeah, in one of the Marvel films.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, Shang-Chi, I think it was.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
is
yeah,
that?
he plays a bad guy in that. So that's it was actually one of the better kind of Marvel films of recent years
Yeah,
because
is
it
that
plays out
Moonlight?
more like a uh no, so I don't think he was in Mulan. It was
No, no,
Shang-Chi.
Moonlight.
So oh, Moon Knight. So that's coming out quite soon, I think. That's something
Yeah. Oh, so
different.
he's not in
Yeah.
that one then.
Uh I'm not too sure. He could be in it because I think they spread characters around through so many
Oh,
things.
okay.
So I don't know whether he's popping up in that or not.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so
I've
carry
not
on.
heard him yet. But yeah, no, I mean, I think he's one of my favorite actors because it's just how much he can say without even having any dialogue.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then, Maggie's the same. And those two in particular, when they work together, there's always like magic that happens.
and good chemistry between them, which is important.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, another one is In the Mood for Love.
Okay.
So, have you seen that one?
Mm, I'm trying to think. I don't think I have. Tell us a bit
Yeah.
about
So,
that one. It might trick my memory.
yeah. Have you seen Brief Encounter?
No. But I know what it's about. I know
Yeah.
it's like a it's a romance.
Yeah,
I know what
kind of
it's
like
about.
these two people getting together.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
like
No, I know
it
of it.
yeah, it's as close to romance as you can get without having any romance,
Oh,
basically. So
okay, okay, yeah.
they
It's
they
like
have
a
connections.
doomed romance.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a romance where they both they've got this connection. It's almost like they could be soulmates, but then neither of them wants to kind of basically become a cheater, and they don't want to cheat. And in the mood for love, both of them they play like husband and wife of these, this two other people. And basically, their spouses are cheating together. So Maggie and Tony kind of know about this, but they don't do anything themselves.
Mm,
Even though that their partners are both cheating together
yeah,
with each other, so they never kind of make that move, and it's always quite innocent.
yeah.
Basically, they have a lot of time together, and food is quite important in it because they eat a lot of meals together.
Mm,
So they're always eating noodles or things like that or dumplings. But again, this is one of those films where colour's quite important in the cinematography
yeah.
and
And
in
it
the
sounds
set.
like
So
they're actually quite the moral ones, whereas the spouses aren't. And
yeah,
they're actually respecting the boundaries of marriage, aren't they? Whereas the spouse, they're just kind of letting the spouses get on with it, I
yeah,
guess.
it's like this whole kind of, particularly from like the wife's point of view. So from Maggie Cheung's point of view, it's almost like you don't want to bring it to attention. You don't want to make a big thing of it
And no,
because
and
then
actually that's a good thing that you pointed out because especially in Chinese culture, they don't like to bring wear face. Do you know what I mean? For instance,
yeah,
if something's going on, it's very humiliating for them to bring it up.
yeah,
And actually,
and
I
again,
encountered
yeah,
this a few times. It's just
yeah,
like over the tiniest problems, like they don't like to have that conversation with you, saying, listen, maybe don't do this. It was, just something really stupid over what bowl you can use in the kitchen, really stupid things like that. And normally you
Yeah,
just say to someone, can you please just, bring in your own stuff and not use our stuff, which is fine. But for
yeah,
them, it's a really awkward conversation to have, which makes it in a way even more awkward for us, I think. Not for them,
yeah,
but for us. If do
yeah,
you know what I mean? It was a really strange. So yeah, that's definitely a very Chinese thing, isn't it?
yeah, very much so. And I think also the In the Mood for Love is a period film as well, so it's set during the '60s, I think it is.
Okay,
So it's even more traditional values back then, and very
sure.
patriarchal. So even though it's her husband cheating, it would be in a society if it came to light and she made a big thing of it. It would almost be like people look down on her more than the husband.
Well, I
'Cause
guess in
maybe
that in
she's
that
failed
time
as
as
a
well,
wife.
the
Yeah,
man's more kind of, it's kind of sexist, but he's more mm, as
yeah.
important.
I guess so, and it's also like
It's a status thing, isn't it?
yeah, and they almost make excuses for it, like his secretary's always covering for him, and his company kind of knows about it and almost encourages the affair.
Yeah. Oh God.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so it's almost like, well, he's a man, he should be able to do that if he wants to do that,
But that's it.
and
And if it was the other way
yeah,
round, if it was her, then she'd be frowned upon, wouldn't she, and judged?
he would, yes. So, I mean, even being cheated on as a woman, she would almost have more stigma than the man for
Yeah.
being a cheater. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's almost like, well, then it's because you're failing as a wife.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting film from that point of view. And then, neither of them really wants to kind of make that move because of all the complications. You'd have two people having to get divorced so that they could go together. And obviously, divorce back then, even still now, probably is, quite. There's a bit of a stigma to it.
Well, it's very shameful for Chinese
Yeah,
people.
yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean,
it is.
particularly back then, so set in the '60s, it's
Yeah,
very much so.
because they're very conservative, especially in mainland China. So, and I remember that reading somewhere that there's so many unhappy marriages in China, and it's just common for a lot of the people, a lot of couples to cheat on each other. It's just like a status thing. So a lot of them are kind
Yeah,
of in
it's
bed with
almost
it.
like, a mutual thing where they know it and they just sort of turn a blind eye,
Yeah,
and
as
then
long
just,
as they've got, if they're being provided for, they have somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's quite but it's their way, I guess. it's yeah, it's a status thing for sure over there. But I
yeah,
think
very
the
much
younger
so.
generation, they're getting more open minded. So there's always a bit of a conflict now between the young generation and the older ones who are more traditional and conservative.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But I think that's the same anywhere, isn't it? You've
Yeah,
always
yeah,
got those,
yeah, yeah.
generational battles.
Mm. So, all right then. Well, that sounds like a really good film. I should watch that one. In the Mood for Love.
Yeah, the 2 of them are really amazing, and there's not a lot of dialogue in it, so it's not one where you've got to sort of be really constantly on the ball with subtitles. It's really
Okay.
kind of visual and, they're always kind of got these lingering looks and something's going on inside their head, but
Yeah, yeah.
they're not really saying it. They're kind of keeping it to themselves.
It kind of reminds me, like the way you're describing it, kind of reminds me a bit like Lost in Translation, because they love it,
Yeah,
they
very
really
much so.
like
Yeah,
each other, but they're both married, so they're spending a lot of time with each other, and
yeah.
she's feeling kind
It's
of
almost like companionship as much as anything else as well.
yeah, that's it. It's a different kind of love. It's not like for instance, the story you're talking about. It's not a lustful love. It's more like the love of your company. Um, but yeah, it does kind of the way you describe it remind me of Lost in Translation because they're both married, blah blah blah, and his wife has kids, and he's basically he's away, and he's not as important as he used to be in that relationship, obviously because they've been together for a long time. And then you got the Scarlett Johansson character, who's the young one, and he's kind of like the aging actor who's still trying to keep working. So he's obviously been in a long-term relationship for a very long time, and then also you realize, that their relationship is not going so well. Do you know what I mean? He's still
Yeah,
loved, but he's not as needed as he feels like he used to be. Whereas she's newly married, and she, even though her husband obviously loves her, he's kind of neglecting her in a way, isn't he? He's kind of leaving her to do her own
yeah.
thing.
He's got his own kind of things to get on with, and then there's a bit of complication with the other character there, Anna Faris, who kind of
Yeah,
is
yeah,
quite
yeah,
bubbly and he spends a lot of time with.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, it reminds me. It kind of reminds me that it's yeah, they call it the doomed romance, don't they? Because they
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
going to
There's
end.
definitely a lot of similarities. Yeah,
Yeah, they know it's gonna. They know they can't do anything. They know they can't progress on to the next thing. But at the same time, they know, it's going to end at some point. Does that make sense?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Is it that kind
yeah,
of similarity between the both of them in a way?
yeah. They're very similar in that kind of way, and again, going back to Brief Encounter, that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, but I mean, the film is like it's just amazing to look at as well. It's got one of the most beautiful films that's ever been shot.
Mm,
Yeah, so yeah, that's definitely well worth watching.
okay. Is that one of Wong Kar-wai's less experimental films? Whereas Chungking Express is very experimental and
Oh
um
yeah, he's not really that experimental with this one. It's very kind of he's experimental in a different way, but he doesn't sort of play with frame rates as
oh,
much or
okay,
anything
yeah.
like that.
Because
So it's
Chungking Express is kind of very dizzy,
yeah,
isn't it?
and it's kind of almost music video-y, isn't it? In some of the
Yeah, the thing is with
sequences.
Chungking Express, it's kind of like, it reminds me a bit of Moulin Rouge. Did you ever see Moulin Rouge?
Yeah,
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 the way the like the chaotic camera movement and all that kind of stuff
yeah,
to show the energy. It's like that. So that's how I always kind of see Chunkin Express. Even though I love it, it still feels kind of sort of dizzy. Does that make sense? There's a lot going on. It's
yeah.
moving all the time. There's
It's a bit more musical, isn't it? So
yeah, it
and
is.
then
Yeah,
they base it a lot around a
the
couple of
music.
famous American songs, and it's
Yeah,
quite musical.
like
Um,
California Dreaming.
yeah, but yeah, In the Mood for Love, I think he tends to stick the camera down a lot more and have a lot more still shots.
Oh, okay.
But he films it in such a way where it's called frames within a frame, basically. So it's almost quite voyeuristic.
Hmm.
So he'll shoot through a room, and then the two characters will be framed within another door within the frame.
That's
So it's
quite
like
clever, though,
frames.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Because that's kind of like you explaining that it's like society kind of watching them. Does that make
yeah, a little
sense?
bit because they're also the setting is also that they live in the same building, and it's like a communal building.
Okay.
There's a landlord, different rooms, like 7 or 8 people in their place. So there's always eyes on you, and it's that whole kind of thing of society back then. There was a lot of gossiping.
Well, that's
So
it, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah. So,
so them two getting together, they're always quite wary of being watched and being
mm,
talked about by the landlady, who might then go and talk to the husband and the other wife as well.
yeah.
So yeah, so that you've got that kind of aspect to it, but it's a lot kind of more still and calm than some of his other works
Yeah, yeah,
because it's
definitely.
more about it's more kind of about just this doomed relationship.
Mm. I have to give that a go. I'll definitely watch that one. All right then. So, shall we move on to any of the other ones? Unless you want to say
Uh,
anything.
did you have any you wanted to talk about?
I'm trying to think. I mean, it's quite hard because I think the only ones I can really remember are the many Jackie Chan films. Because you were saying you have to try not to think of too many Jackie Chan films, but yeah, because my dad used to take us to Chinatown and every weekend get like a couple of videos from Chinatown. So it was usually like a Jackie Chan film, or it was some strange. Oh, I think we talked about this. I very vaguely remember it when I was a kid. It was a weird ghost story. Oh, actually, Chow Yun Fat was in it. That's it. Is it Chinese Ghost Story? Is that the name of the film?
Uh, there is, yeah. I think, yeah, I saw that ages ago. I can't remember too
So,
much of it,
so
but
I
yeah.
sort of remember the end, which was really traumatizing for me. Was made or sort of near towards the end. So there's a girl he likes, I think, and she's kind of in the underworld, and this ghost,
Yeah,
her ex, is trying to reclaim her back and hasn't got any legs. He's really scary looking. It's like a demon ghost thing. I don't know if it's
yeah.
is it that
It,
story?
it might be that. Yeah, there's been quite a few films like that. Like there's one called The Bride with White Hair.
Okay.
Um, and there was another one. I can't remember what it was called, but it inspired, Big Trouble in Little China,
Yeah. Oh,
the Kurt
yes.
Russell film. There was a film that really inspired that, from a director called Choi Hark. So
Okay.
I think he might have directed a Chinese ghost story, but I think, you know,
Yeah.
they
There's a
used to
lot of
do a lot of these,
references, aren't
yeah,
there?
fantasy films and
Yeah. Actually, in Chinese films, especially in Hong Kong, a lot of the films are, like we said, are sort of centered around food, family, uh, relationships, and another one is like evil spirits, isn't it? Because that's another big one.
yeah.
So you'll get
So
lots.
they're into a lot of, folk horror and stuff like
Yes,
that.
it's not our traditional way of thinking about how we'd see ghosts or demons. For instance, their zombies are not the same as our zombies. Have you ever seen those zombie films? My dad used to watch them quite a lot, and they scared me quite a lot as a kid. As well. They sort of they jump up and down and
I
have
probably, yeah, I think even in the one that inspired uh, Big Trouble in Little China,
yeah. I
I
think it
think,
might
yeah,
have
they
crossed
had that
over.
in that as well, yeah. But there was
Yeah,
quite a few of those in the 80s.
yeah,
Lots of like really outlandish visuals and very colourful as well.
yes, and sort of lots of smoke and things like that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so spirits is actually another a good one to point out in Chinese culture. There's like the Mid Autumn Festival where they pull up the lights and the lanterns and things to wear away all the evil spirits. So yeah, they are very um like you said that in folklore and all that kind of stuff does very
yeah,
what's the word? It's not traditional. Well, when it's superstitious, that's the word I'm trying to
yeah,
look
superstitious and
for.
yeah, because it's more kind of spiritual and superstition over religion, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's not
definitely.
really, yeah.
And I was telling someone this before, um, and you must know this, that for them, do you know what the lucky number is in Chinese culture?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know? Oh my God, I can't believe it. So it's
It's
number
not.
eight. Eight's
Oh, number 8. Yeah, yeah,
number eight's very lucky. So, actually, this is good because it's tying in with Chinese New Year. So when it's Chinese New Year and everyone gets the money, their lycée money, etc., it's also a big thing for a lot of people to go to the racehorses and bet on them because it's the beginning of
yeah.
the new Chinese New Year. So they a lot of them tend to go for number 8, the lucky number. So yeah, that's a big thing in for Chinese New Year. Number. Do you know what the unlucky number is?
No.
It's 4.
Oh, I guess, yeah, half of 8. So yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it's because the word. Can you count in Mandarin?
Uh, san
Si,
shu.
si,
Yeah, si.
yeah. So 1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8、9。So si is also. I mean, it obviously depends on the different characters, but it's kind of sounds the same, but with a different intonation. But it also means death. So you tend to
Yeah,
never really get the number 4 number show up in lifts, for instance, which is really strange.
yeah.
Because
I mean, in some Western countries, they do that with 13, don't they?
oh, do
So
they?
sometimes, yeah, some places will skip 13
I've never
in,
seen that. I mean, I know 13's the unlucky number for Western
yeah.
people, but society, but I don't think
It's
I've
not
ever.
widespread, but I think it's, it's some
Yeah,
people
yeah,
will do it in certain buildings.
yeah, yeah. No, it is really interesting. I wonder if that's come up in if that's ever popped up in any Chinese films numbers. Can you think of any?
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay. Do you know any other films that use a bit of Chinese superstition or folklore?
So the film I was trying to think of that inspired Big Trouble in Little China is called Zoo,
Okay.
Warriors from the Magic Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you ever see a trailer for that, you'll see what I mean. It's just kind of madcap
Yeah, yeah,
and lots of
definitely.
spirits and things going on.
Um,
Uh,
sorry.
Iron Monkey had a little bit of a kind of spiritual side to it and a little quite mystical.
Okay.
That was one of Donnie Yen's kind of early hits.
Okay. Is he still going quite strong in Asia at the moment?
He
Uh,
is, yeah, he's still popular. So he's doing quite a few Hollywood things now as well.
yeah.
Yeah, so he's kind of made that transition over, but he still seems to be quite popular.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Jackie Chan's still popular in the mainland as well.
Yeah. We spoke
Yeah,
about this, didn't we? He's not doing
yeah.
so well in Hong Kong as much.
No, he's
A
lost
lot
a lot
of.
of popularity there because
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
obviously
But that's to do with.
pro-government. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He's more pro sort of government communism. Yeah. So obviously that's going to cause a bit of. But people still like him for his talent. But you know what I mean, and his films, etc.
yeah.
But for his.
It just depends on how kind of
What's about it?
you know staunch they are about their kind of political side. People in
Yeah.
Hong Kong.
Well,
It's
this
more
is
the
another
young
thing,
people,
isn't
I
it?
think.
Is that the politics is always going to get in the way of, China, Hong Kong, Tibet,
Yeah,
etc. So, yeah. I mean, for instance, you'd never ever see China make a film about Tibet or Taiwan, would you?
no,
No,
no, definitely not. Uh,
not
unless
unless you're
it
going to
was
get
a
in hot
film,
water.
that was sort of about them claiming it back or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you heard what's happened about Fight Club in China?
No. What, the one with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton?
Yeah, so basically, it's finally been released over there
Are you
through.
serious? I thought it did in
Yeah,
like ages ago when it came out here. It's like the early
no, it
2000s.
never. I don't think it got released over there. Um, might have got released in Hong Kong, but not in mainland. I
Yeah,
don't think.
Hong Kong it would have.
Uh, yeah, so basically, they've released it through one of their kind of streaming things,
Okay.
but they've changed the ending so that the authorities win.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they've done that because I don't know whether they had different footage or they just
Maybe what they
you
had,
know
well,
spliced
maybe,
something in.
yeah, maybe what they did was they asked Fincher if he could do a different ending. But then that kind of defeats the purpose because the whole film is about, well, it's quite hard. It's a different concept, isn't it? It's nothing to do about really fighting. It's actually all philosophical and
Yeah,
yeah, it's all about,
it's more
how.
anti-consumerism than anything else, isn't it? Rather
Yeah, and
than
anti-society,
yeah,
like he said, he talks about going to IKEA and picking out things and which ones define
yeah,
him more as a person, and actually think actually we have become kind of like that, haven't we?
yeah. But I mean, interestingly, I think in China at the moment, the government has kind of they've got their own kind of anti-consumerism thing going on as well
Mm,
because they're trying to wean the younger society away from idolizing celebrities and influencers and things like that.
yeah.
They're starting to think that people are getting too kind of consumerist over there.
Oh, really? Well,
Um,
actually, that would kind of make sense in a way because
yeah,
it was really weird because I remember, like when I studied Mandarin in Shanghai when I was like 27 for about 4 months, and then when I worked there a few years ago for a year, there is always a Walmart. There's always a Walmart or what's the other chain? It's a French chain of a hypermarket.
Oh, I remember.
Or is it Le
I've been
Petit?
there, but
Yeah.
yeah, it might be. Yeah,
So in a way, it's quite strange because you're still having like, and also, how many places is there McDonald's and KFC and Pizza Hut? Do you know what I mean? It's very,
yeah.
it is in a weird way very Americanized in a so
Well, it certainly has. Yeah, sort of from the early 2000s for maybe like 15. I think there's a bit of a reaction now from the Chinese government because obviously there's been a bit more tension
yeah,
between the East and the West in the last 3 or 4 years.
well, definitely,
And really, Trump stoked that a lot.
yeah,
And it's kind of they're kind of reacting to that because they've been a lot more open uh, to like Western influences. And obviously, like you say, there's a McDonald's everywhere now
mm.
and all the rest of it. I've even seen Tesco's over there as
Oh,
well.
have you?
Yeah. Uh, I think they're moving out though. I think the last I heard, they were kind of starting to close them down, or
Oh, really?
they were moving away from that territory.
Um,
But
sorry.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think maybe there's going to be a bit of reaction against that now,
Yeah,
and
so
it goes with Hollywood movies as well. I think they're going to be less likely to find wider distribution over there. There's going to
yeah.
be bigger problems there because
So
they've been
when
so kind of receptive to that in
yeah.
the last 20 years.
So when Fight Club came out, that's been very recently then. Has that caused any controversy?
I don't think it has really, not certainly not over there. It's just one of those things here, for example, that's a bit of a curiosity. That the fact that it's taken so long, and then they've kind of released it over there, but they've changed the ending
But then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the film, doesn't it?
a little bit. But I
Do you know
think
what I
in the
mean?
end,
Because they're so anti-establishment
yeah,
and anti-consumerism, and all of a sudden you're being told at the very end, "Oh no, it's all okay." Da, 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 da. Do you know it's really
yeah.
weird?
But I mean, if you're going to get for any films that they make in the mainland, it's always got to be that the the establishment will win. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, certainly China are putting a lot more money into their own films now.
Mm.
They do lots of military films. Sci-fi is becoming popular again, but it's always like so. Like in America, where Michael Bay, all his films are very kind of pro-America and a
Yeah,
bit like Team America without
sure.
the irony. Very flag wavy. So all the Chinese action films now are very much like that.
Like pro-China, pro-communism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and how great that the Chinese military are, and they're always, there to rescue, like the Western military, or they're there to sort of show up another military
It's
and
funny,
show
isn't
people
it?
how it's done. Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's any different, honestly, than American films a lot of the times.
No, no, no.
It's
And
the
also
same
we
thing
don't
there.
really know that that's going on when we watch it, do we? We just watch it. But then
No,
it's a bit like subliminal, is it subliminal? How do you say it? Subliminal
yeah,
messaging
subliminal.
and kind of
Yeah, I think
brainwashing.
maybe it's a bit too direct to be subliminal, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a film called Wolf Warrior that was the highest grossing film at one point in China.
Mm,
I think it's since been overtaken, but it's a military kind of war movie,
yeah.
uh, and it's very kind of wave the Chinese flag kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's really interesting. So I wonder what
yeah.
other films have only just been released in China.
There's
What's-
been not sure about any that have come from the West, but yeah,
yeah.
um,
And I
because there was
remember
a point, yeah, they were releasing all the kind of blockbusters there,
for
but I
many,
think
many years ago.
they're starting to close the doors a bit now
Oh, they,
because yeah, partly because they're making their own films now, but also because they don't want too much of the Western influence to
yeah.
keep, coming over.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
No, and we talked about it earlier. Lost Caution was banned in China, wasn't it?
yeah. I
That was
mean, yeah.
definitely banned.
So, I mean, that was banned in a lot of places, to be fair. So
Oh,
I
was
think,
it?
yeah. So I think they had problems in America. So they might have had to have cut it down to get an R rating because it would have been NC 17, I think, is their top
Okay.
rating.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so in a lot of places it got very small distribution or it got cut or banned.
Okay. So it was kind
Yeah,
of more of a. It came out more of an art house film, I guess.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean it's not.
It wasn't any
It's,
intention, but that's how it ended up being
yeah,
distributed. Yeah.
but I think it was quite explicit with the sex scenes. I think
Yeah. That is
there's
Lulu
been
again.
worse, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Well, it
been
was very
worse,
brave
but
to do that.
she, yeah, she is, yeah.
So
But I think, yeah, it's it was pushing it, but I think art house films have been doing that, and it's almost been getting more normal. So there's been a lot, with very explicit scenes,
yeah.
as you know, with the Handmaiden. uh, yeah,
But actually, quick question. Sorry, I don't want to go off topic because it is about Chinese New Year and Chinese films. Um, whereabouts in Korea was The Handmaiden filmed? Was it? It would have been South Korea. There was no way they would have made that in North Korea, I'd imagine.
no, it was South Korea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I'm just thinking, as North Korea is a very communist place, that would probably be very anti that film, wouldn't they? Because of how explicit it is and its nature, I guess.
yeah,
It would
definitely. I
probably be
think even just generally because it's made in the South, full
yeah.
stop.
Oh, I see. So
Probably, yeah.
they're even like that, are they? They wouldn't even show anything that was made in the South.
I'm not even sure what happens over there in terms of like film distribution, whether they take anything from outside the North.
Yeah, that is really interesting,
You
actually.
just never know, really, do you?
No, no. Unless what they do is they do like they'll take the premise of the story and they'll make it into their own and distribute it. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like
Yeah, I mean, I
uh,
know there's quite a few propaganda films and things like that,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, they're basically they're limited to one channel anyway, aren't they? So
yeah.
that's the government channel, and you have to have your TV switched on at all times.
Really?
Yeah, in case they have a message come through about anything. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
No,
you
it
can
is
get
interesting how life imitates. They do say that, don't they? Life
yeah,
imitates art. So what's going on in the real world will influence somehow what you're watching in some form or another. If that makes sense. Or the elements of society will creep in. If that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. I think that's very much the case. But also think certain things have always been, you know, there's always been class issues and things like that. So
Yeah,
every year there's going to be a film which deals with class issues, and that'll be the same, here and in the East as well.
yeah. Well,
So
everywhere.
Korea has a lot of films that deal with class issues.
Mm,
It's probably less common in China because they don't want to probably bring too much attention to those
no,
divides.
no.
Um, Although they will start showing a lot more films about kind of like the rising middle class now,
Oh,
because
really?
there's a lot of money in China, a lot of wealth.
Mm,
Just generally, in that their middle classes are expanding in the big cities.
yeah, definitely.
Uh, yeah, so it's
All
quite
right.
interesting. Yeah, life
No,
always
it
does
is. It does. It
imitate
does.
art.
And you see that through so many films, and so many generations. You'll see, like, if you go back to, I don't want to go off because we're still on the subject, but it's just sort of, what do you call it? To basically sum up what we're talking about, how life imitates art. If you go back to watching, say, musicals, like, what's that? Seven Brides for Seven wives or something like that. No, Seven Brides for Seven. I can't remember. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
it's it's very interesting to see, even though it's a fun family film, to see actually how that actually the men view the women. Does that make sense? At that time, and in a story, it seems so innocent, but that was just the normal. So it was kind of like
yeah,
the women were expected just to be the wives, basically. It's very kind of it's sexist, but it's not sexist because in their society it was how it was at the time, so it was
yeah.
normal.
Well,
But
I
then you
think
watch,
sometimes people lose that point, don't they? So when they want
hmm,
to retrospectively ban old Disney films because they have,
Yeah,
like,
we spoke about this, didn't we, in the
yeah,
very first?
yeah, when they have, racism in there, even though
Yeah,
it's not always kind of from a nasty place. It's just,
the
that
way
the
things were.
ignorance of that
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
but then you see
So,
those offensive ones that, like you said, that were banned, like the minstrel faces. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, at one point that was just,
the
normal.
norm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, and even, as even Tropic Thunder is only like 10 or 11 years old,
yeah. But that
and you've
actually
got,
we were talking about
Robert
that, didn't
Downey
we? We were
Jr.
saying
doing
that wouldn't
blackface.
work
So yeah,
now. Yeah, that wouldn't work
no,
now.
it wouldn't work now. But I mean, you can still look back at that, from the time it was made.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and see that.
and
Yeah,
there's a definite part of the gag there is because he's doing it, and it's because it's making a point on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, it's about, I think people forget context sometimes, and
Yeah, 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 definitely. And
they
and
just
also
want
you
to
said
complain
about
about
James
something.
Bond, didn't you? That they were trying to make it a bit more modernized, whereas it was very much like him against, all the women were basically at his disposal, basically.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
basically, yeah.
kind of, yeah. Anyway, so let's get back to topic. um, so come on to let's go on to one of your other choices now.
Okay, so I think I will go for I'm gonna go for a bit of an East-West fusion here. So this one
Okay,
is called The Farewell.
okay,
So basically, there was a writer-director called Lulu Wang,
okay,
uh, and she wrote and directed, like, a film that's partially based on her own life.
okay.
So she's Asian American, and she's got loads of sort of family back in China.
Hmm.
And basically, the story of the film is that her grandmother has uh, just been diagnosed with cancer, and it's terminal.
Okay.
Uh, but in some parts of China, some societies there, uh, if someone gets a terminal diagnosis, the doctor might tell the family, and then it's up to the family whether they tell the person who's actually affected with the cancer. So in this
Ah,
case, they don't tell her.
yeah.
But what they do is they fake a wedding so they can get all the family back together over in China to kind of have a last celebration with the grandmother. And she's like this head of a family, so she's kind of like the one that everyone gravitates around. So,
She's like the
some
matriarch.
yeah, the matriarch of the
Yeah.
family. So this one, it stars Aquafina, who's quite famous at the moment, like Asian American comedian.
Okay.
Uh, and she's doing quite well at the moment. But this one was a bit different because there's still comedy in it, but it's more of a drama. So it's quite
Yeah.
a bit of an indie drama, but it's got her from an American point of view going into mainland China. She's been
Mm.
there before and she kind of speaks the language, but they're always getting at her because of her accent. So she's not speaking Mandarin properly.
Yeah.
And then, when you see the film, it's just, you'll recognize so much from, like, being constantly fed, and everyone's always offering you food as soon as you come in. And the Nai, the grandmother, who's like the matriarch,
Hmm.
she's always offering everyone food, and everyone's kind of like gravitating around her.
Yeah.
And it's a really kind of bittersweet film.
I was going to say
Uh,
it sounds like it because they all
yeah,
know she's dying, but they don't want to,
no,
they want her to have a happy
yeah, and in their way of
thought.
thinking, it's that, once people know that they're dying, they tend to become more sick. It's almost like knowing it makes you more
Yeah.
like your body starts to give up, your mind starts to give up because you
Yeah, it
know
is quite
what's happening.
interesting. Yeah. And also,
Yeah,
I guess actually you've kind of brought up a good thing is that maybe the older generation, the older Chinese generation, view death differently to the younger generation.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So from the girl's point of view, Aquafina, who's playing. She's essentially playing the writer and director
Hmm.
because this sort of happens to a point. Uh, she's coming from the Western culture, so to her this isn't normal. I mean, she
Yeah.
recognizes all the other things in the Chinese culture, like the family getting together, always being called fat when she's not really, and things like
Yeah.
that, and
Oh,
always
and we
being
should
asked whether
say
she's
that
got
for
a
Chinese
boyfriend or a
people.
career.
Yeah, we should
Yeah,
say that for Chinese people, being fat is actually a good thing, isn't it?
yeah, a little bit, and maybe more so for the men than the women. Maybe I
Yes.
guess I don't know,
Yeah.
but I think it's more to do with maybe the fact that there's an honesty in Chinese culture where they're just, without being offensive or
Yeah.
meaning to take the piss, they'll just say, "Oh, you're fat,"
Yeah.
as because it's a matter of fact or something like that. But yeah, so she's really struggling because she's one of the youngest and she's really attached and close to her nai.
Mm.
Um, so she's really struggling to keep it to herself. Uh, and then the family are kind of telling her not to kind of uh, give it away, basically.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of these, the mum and dad are kind of really holding everything in. So there's a lot of built up tension as well.
Yeah.
But it's just a really interesting film. I kind of related to it because, I see parts from being like an outsider,
Mm.
looking into the Chinese family and the culture.
Yeah.
And having been over there with my wife's family, I got treated in all the same kind of ways that she gets treated in the film.
Yeah.
Where you become almost like the center of attention for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and also from even just as a family film, it's quite relatable as well. Because I
Mm.
mean, it was very similar. The, the the grandmother character in this film just reminded me so much of my own grandmother,
Yeah.
who also, I mean, she died of cancer as well. So it kind of it really hit home when I first
Yeah,
watched
of
the film,
course.
and yeah, really kind of it's
Getting that.
definitely a tearjerker. I'll say that. Yeah,
Yeah. But like a
but
bittersweet film, like you said.
very bittersweet. So
Mm.
one minute you're laughing, and then the other minute you're kind of trying to
Hold back the
hold it
tears.
all in. Yeah. Um, no, it's just really nice film, really well acted,
What's
and
it called?
the farewell.
The Farewell. I
Yeah,
have
so
to
it's
watch.
quite a recent one. So it's all shot. It's shot over in, I think they're Beijing,
Okay.
and it's shot mostly in Mandarin.
Okay.
So yeah, so you've got the American character. She's speaking a little bit of English, but most of it she's sort of doing her bit to speak Mandarin amongst
Okay.
all her Chinese relatives.
Do you know what's
Yeah,
funny is I can kind of relate to that because and you've probably been the same. You probably know a few Chinese words and sentences
yeah,
now, being married to a Chinese woman. But when I tried to speak Chinese, nobody understood what I was saying. And
well, yeah, it's the same. Yeah, that's it.
so
I
because
mean,
a
I
lot
what?
of it has
Yeah,
to do with the intonation, isn't it, and how you say it.
exactly. Yeah, because I remember just having this back and forth with my wife once that she was saying le for me when I was saying "Xin Yan Kuai Le."
Yeah,
She was saying no, it's le, and I'm going le le. We're back and forth, and it sounds to me it sounds
exactly the
identical.
same.
To her, I'm mashing it up completely wrong,
Yeah.
and I can't get the right tone. And then she'll say, "Yeah, that's it," and then I won't have any idea how I got there, and then I'll try it again, and it's gone. Yeah,
Did I tell you about the time this was like in 2013, and I remember going up to these taxi drivers to try and ask them where can I go and buy fish because I wanted to cook some fish. So
yeah,
is it you? See, the thing. This is
yeah,
the thing is that there's four intonation marks, so the sound can be completely different. So even though
yeah,
the pinyin, so how you describe the sound in English would be you, they have four accent marks. So that word, the pinyin word, the sound of it, would sound completely different if it was two completely different characters or one character and a different character. So I remember trying to order, saying, where can I get fish? And I didn't know how to say the whole sentence. So I just said, you, and they all looked at me, these taxi drivers, like complete, and also it was in
Yeah.
the countryside. So, they're like, who's this crazy Westerner? And they
Yeah.
didn't get it. So in the end, I had to pretend I was a fish and wiggle around. And they were all laughing at me.
Yeah. Well, the thing I find is that you can't do so in England. If you go up to someone, if you're from abroad, you can do pidgin English. So you
Yeah.
can say, if you want a taxi, you don't have to say, "Can you tell me where to get a taxi, please?" You can just say, "Taxi,
Yeah,
taxi,"
it's the same. Yeah.
and then someone will point you out. So I don't think it works that way so much in China, where I think you have to sort of string out the sentence, and
Yeah.
you have to, yeah.
And also,
Otherwise, they'll
have
be a
you
bit
ever
lost.
been on those DD bikes?
No.
Oh, you've never been on there. So they have taxis, but they also have well, maybe it's not in all of the it's usually, I think, in the more sort of poorer places or the countryside, in Yangshuo.
Yeah. It's similar to a tuk-tuk.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
they just drive motorbikes, and it's like a taxi but on a motorbike.
Oh,
So
yeah, I've been on one of them, yeah.
yeah. So they're not
One with
they
the floor missing.
yeah.
I was
So you
terrified.
do see some funny things like live chickens being tied to them because they're about to go and get killed to go home and made for dinner, and just really strange things like that. But yeah, the DDs. What was I saying? I can't remember. This is what happens when you get to. We're talking about DDs. Why did we get onto that subject? Taxi
Uh,
things. Um.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So basically, I'm sure they probably hadn't come across many Westerners, so they just thought I was a crazy person. But anyway, do you mind if I go to the toilet quickly, Tom?
No, that's fine.
Uh, okay, sorry about that. I had to come back from a toilet break. So, can I be naughty and put one of mine in?
You can always be naughty, yeah. I'll let you get away with it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, we have spoken about it once, maybe twice, but can we talk about Chunking Express again, but try and find different points to raise about it? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is one of Wong Kar-wai's more experimental films we were talking about, and there's three different stories, aren't there? It follows three different sets of characters.
I think that one, is it more like two? I think
Um.
there's a few different characters, but they kind of,
Oh,
well, I
yeah, no,
guess
you're right. You're
they,
right. It's two. Yeah, because the first one
yeah,
is with Takeshi Kanishiro. He's like
yeah.
the Johnny Depp of Asia. He's half Chinese. Sorry, half Taiwanese, half Japanese, I think.
I think so, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
and
handsome devil.
he's very. He hasn't been around much
No, not
lately.
recently, no.
No, he pops up in adverts and stuff, but
Yeah.
he's still very good looking. Anyway, so him and your favorite Bridget, was it Bridget Lynn?
I like Bridget Lin, but I was more of a Faye Wong
Oh
fan
yeah,
in
you
this
were.
one.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
those two in the first one. So basically, he's a police cop and she's well, a drug baron, isn't she? She's
Yeah.
dealing
So
drugs and
she's
stuff.
got a line on sort of illegal immigrants
Yeah,
and used as drug mules. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. And then
And
he
this,
kind of sort of gets a little thing for her, doesn't he?
yeah, he has no idea, does he, what she
No.
does? And then the
No.
second part is Tony Leung and your favorite, Fei Wong.
Faye Wong, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like they're very kind of slow built relationships, aren't they? So it's not like, you know, they're instantly smitten. Like there's a connect. She's instantly, Faye Wong is instantly kind of interested by Tony, but
No.
it's not kind of like as if she fancies him or anything. I think she's just really kind of she just becomes slowly kind of obsessed with him a little bit,
Yeah,
and
she
he's
does, doesn't
doesn't quite notice her, but then becomes more interested himself, and it kind of switches around
she? Mm.
when she begins to lose interest on him, which
Yeah.
I thought was quite interesting.
Well, both of the two stories, it's also kind of like that thing where we sort of come back in the circle, isn't it? About
Yeah,
in the mood of love, because it's kind of like a doomed relationship. Like, like we don't know what happens.
yeah,
Nothing really happens. Do you know what I mean? But it's
yeah,
kind of insinuated.
yeah. No, definitely, yeah. And in the other story, the guy is kind of hung up on um his girlfriend, isn't he? And then sort of he finds his head being turned by Bridget Lynn while he's kind of trying to get over, his relationship with his girlfriend, which is kind of broken down.
Yeah, yeah,
He's trying to find collect these specific pineapple tins.
yeah. Because he's obsessed with collecting expired pineapple cans, isn't he? And running, lots of running.
Yeah, and the film's like, as we said just now, it's very musical.
Mm.
So it's very high energy, and there's a lot of set pieces, where he's doing something odd with the frame rate. So it looks like a music video a lot of the
Yeah.
times.
Did you know there was meant to be a third story?
No, what would that have been?
So what he did, because I remember when we did film club during one of the lockdowns, one of my sisters said, so hang on. So there was going to be a third story in Chunkin Express, but then what he decided to do was to make it into its own main film.
Oh yeah, that was Fallen Angels, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
Oh, so I've never got around to seeing that one. So
So hang on,
is
I'm just trying to.
Takeshi playing the same character in that one? Because I think he's in that as well, isn't he?
I'm just reading quickly. So it was cut after he decided to. It was computer. Yes, you're right. So yeah, that was meant originally conceived by Wong. It was cut after he decided that it was complete without it. So he instead developed it into a story for its own feature film. Yeah. So I guess that would have been with a different actor, and then obviously they changed the premise of it when they decided to make it. Well, he decided to make it into a main feature film and put him back into it again, playing a different character. But it would have been
Yeah,
the third installment of Chunkin Express. Yeah.
I
Did you know
see.
that?
Yeah, I didn't know that. No,
Yeah,
I knew
yeah,
I knew there's a connect. I knew obviously that there was a connection
yeah.
between that one and Fallen Angels, but I didn't realize it was kind of almost like a leftover from Chungking Express.
Yeah. Yeah, it's clever actually, isn't it?
Yeah,
To
but I
sort of-
still haven't managed to find a copy of Fallen Angels because I keep meaning to watch that.
yeah, I should have a go watching it as well. I'll try to see if I can find it somewhere. Um so did you ever go have you been to Hong Kong?
I haven't. I'd love to, yeah, but I've not been yet.
I was gonna say, have you ever been to Chunkin Express?
No, I'll have
And
to
I say
go
Chunkin Mansions. What am I talking about? The film is Chunkin
then.
Chunkin Mansions.
No, no, no.
No.
I'll have to look that up. I thought there
Um,
would actually, yeah. So there's
no,
no Chungking Express then.
no. Is that there's actually a building called Chunking Mansions. It's not
Yeah,
mansions. It's in Tim Satoy, and it used to be. It's just basically a block really, and it used and with some offices and things like that, and hotels and stuff. But it used to be very shady, and it used to be where people go to sell like dodgy stuff, like off the black market and things like that, like the lucky men type things. And it's things
yeah.
like, come buy our genuine fake Rolex. Things like that, lots of stuff like genuine fake Calvin Klein and all that kind of stuff. And they're trying to sell you stuff for a ridiculous amount of money. But it was really dodgy at one point in time. And then I think it would have been in the 90s as well. It wasn't what it is now. Whereas now it's more kind of there's shops on the bottom floor. It's still a little bit of that kind of look, But then on all the other floors, there's like little B&Bs and not hotels, but like one floor for each sort of bed and breakfast or whatever. And they're usually really cheap as well. So you tend to get a lot of travelers or students that sort of stay over them if they're going to Hong Kong for a short time. But yeah, Chungking Mansions used to be very seedy, and it was kind of like, you shouldn't really go there. So that's some background for Chungking Mansions. so yeah, but I'm trying to think of points to say. Is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't talked about? Chungking Express, not Mansions.
Well, I just think I like the soundtrack. There's kind of the Western influence in it.
Mm.
Oh,
The
what's the
same
band?
song.
Was it the? They've also got the Cranberries in it, don't they, as well?
Oh yeah. That's it. So
Uh,
there's two main songs that sort of come
yeah,
up. It's California Dreaming. God, the amount of times they play that song. And the Cranberries. What is it? It's not Linger, is it? No, it's the other
is it
one. Their first one.
Dreams? Is it?
Dreams. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So there's definitely like a Western influence, which actually would kind of make sense because in the 90s there was still like a big Western scene going on in Hong Kong before the handover sort of took over and things started gradually changing.
yeah, definitely. And Wong Kar-wai was one of those filmmakers who was very kind of into just watching a lot of cinema from around the world. So he
Mm,
was kind of influenced by that. And I think, like John Woo was, very influenced by a lot of Western cinema.
yeah.
But then in turn, a lot of Western cinema ended up being influenced by, those two. So it
Yeah.
kind of goes in a cycle.
Definitely. Um, yeah, and you will see a lot of it. Actually, you can see that Wong Kar-wai is very revolutionary, especially for his time, wasn't he? I mean, because
Yeah,
Chunky
definitely. Because a lot
Express.
of what he did that Tony Scott would start doing as well,
Mm,
experimenting with, the frame rates on cameras and like cranking the cameras and things to get those kind of effects.
yeah.
So like at the turn of the century, Tony Scott was doing a lot of experimentation with, what you could do with a camera
Mm,
in terms of just the frame rates and everything, and dropping frame rates and motion blur,
yeah.
as well as the editing. So yeah, I think he was very influential. I think at
Definitely.
the same time, Wong Kar-wai seems to be quite influenced by American music videos
Yeah, you can see that
from that time.
in Chunkin Express, can't you?
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, at the same time, it's a really well shot film as well. There's lots of colours, and they really capture the kind of the energy of that place.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I like the
you
opening.
really do get a sense of where you are.
Well, that's
And
it. Is that like, especially the opening scene? Like, you don't know what you're going to expect, and then the film just suddenly opens up with that strange music, and you just see like the colors all blurring and everything. You can hear now and he's running. The cop. Well, the first cop, because there's two cops. The first cop in the first half of the film, Takeshi Kanishiro, is running after some people. But it's all very kind of like I said, dizzy. There's all this stuff going on. There's blurry. It's
yeah,
blurry, and it's trying to capture the environment of Hong Kong. Which Hong Kong's very buzzy. It's a bit
yeah,
like New York, and you know what I mean. But
yeah,
it's constantly going. It's just one of those cities that like I really miss Hong Kong actually. But
yeah,
it's like it's known for its energy. Just it's like sort of restaurants are open till 10 o'clock, and the shops are open really late, and it's got that kind of noise. There's lots of people around. There's lots of restaurants. There's lots of you know little places you can eat. So it's very noisy. It's very busy. There's lots of stuff going on, and it definitely captures that in the film, especially the very
yeah.
opening
I mean,
scene.
it kind of reminded me because I'd been to Bangkok and I found that
Yeah,
quite similar. That
I'd
whole
imagine it would
kind
be
of
quite
energy.
the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it remind you of Bangkok, even though you went?
Yeah, certainly from the film.
Mm,
It kind of reminded me of that. So I got a sense of that kind of energy that you get from, like a really congested kind of city in Asia.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely I got that vibe when I was in Bangkok and a little bit in yeah, no, mostly Bangkok I think, and a little bit in Kuala Lumpur in
Mm.
Malaysia
And
was
then
a
a lot
little
of
bit like that as well.
yeah, and a lot of those countries tend to have high-rise apartments, don't they? There's not many houses around. Everyone
Yeah,
lives
so
in
there's
small
it's quite
spaces.
condensed areas, so they
Mm.
tend to build up rather than out so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially in Hong Kong, I can imagine.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's like rent's really expensive now in Hong Kong, but it's
Yeah,
mostly all apartments. Everywhere's apartments. So generally there's not much space. And I guess it's like places like Tokyo and stuff, there's a lot of people. So but they're all kind of, crammed into I mean, there's obviously lovely apartments and stuff, but you know what I mean?
yeah.
There's not much space compared to us where we are here, for instance, if that makes sense.
No, I don't. No, not particularly, because I think also one thing about Hong Kong maybe, and also Bangkok is they got this really kind of interesting mix of time periods and the modern and the old school. So
Mm.
like I'd go to Bangkok and I'd see like these old shacks, and then they'd be next to like a really modern high rise, and then there'd be another kind of like old
Yeah,
tatty
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
building.
No, Hong
And
Kong's
it's like that.
definitely the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I got that kind of vibe, from watching Chungking Express
Mm.
and a few other films. But yeah, he really captures that energy as well. So not just the kind of look of the place, but also the energy that you get from the people and the lights and everything and the noise,
Yeah.
which I thought was really kind of interesting.
Mm. Definitely. All right then. So shall we go on to one of yours, and then I think we should sort of start wrapping it up because we've probably talked enough. So, is there any more you
Yeah,
want to talk about quickly?
yeah. So I guess we can also talk about one called Infernal Affairs.
Oh yes, okay,
So
yeah.
yeah, so this was one that was basically remade as The Departed in
Mhm,
America with Martin Scorsese. Uh, and again, it's got my favorite Tony in.
mhm,
So Tony's in it, and Andy Lau.
mhm,
Yeah. So basically, a cop goes undercover in the mob,
mhm.
or well, it'll be the triads
Yeah.
in China, and
Is that the
one
Chow
of the
Yun Fat character, isn't it?
uh,
No, no, no. Sorry, I got confused. It's not him.
Tony, yeah, Tony
Tony
Lung,
Leung.
I
Okay,
think.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you've got a cop. Yeah, you've got a cop going undercover in the triads, and then a triad going undercover in the
In the
cops.
police. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both aware of each other, but they're kind of both respectively trying to find the other person. So it's like a mutual mole hunt. So it's kind of like a really kind of engaging thriller. And both of them are getting so into their kind of roles that it's kind of
Mm.
affecting their mind state as well. Um, no, it's a really good film. Obviously, have you seen The Departed?
No, but you know what? Like, I've seen bits of it, and I tell you why, because I can't handle that level of violence. Like, I know there's some, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to handle it.
Yeah,
But
there's definitely a lot of violence. Yeah.
there is there? Yeah. I just remember seeing a clip with Jack Nicholson about to put Leonardo DiCaprio's hand in like some horrible um device, and no, I just that made me feel quite
Yeah.
sick, so I didn't
I
watch it
mean, yeah, the original film is quite violent, but it's not
to that
doesn't get to
extreme.
those levels. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I
I've
mean,
seen bits of it, and so I know what it's about, and I've seen, like how it turns out. But I
yeah.
never knew if, I mean, for instance, here's a good question for you: is The Departed pretty much exactly the same as the Hong Kong? Is it the Hong Kong Inferno or Hong Kong Informant?
Infernal Affairs.
Infernal Affairs. Is it
Yeah.
exactly the same storyline, or do the Americans kind of make it their own in bits?
Well, I think because it's Scorsese, well, it's basically the same main plot,
Okay.
but I mean, because it's Scorsese, he does a really good job, and he kind of makes it a bit more of an epic kind of gangster film, really.
Mm.
because it's about an hour longer as well,
Okay.
the American version. So the Hong Kong version is much more of a sleek kind of tight thriller,
Okay.
um, and it's only like an hour and 40 minutes, so it's quite, you know, quite well paced and very kind of to the point.
Well,
Whereas,
quite fast as well, I'd imagine.
yeah, quite fast paced, but
Yeah.
it's at the same time it's really intense and well acted. Uh, it kind of leaves a few gaps here and there, so it doesn't sort of, you know, wrap everything up as much as the American one. But that's because the Hong Kong one ended up having two sequels, so they kind of
Oh,
expanded on the story and continued it
okay.
in two sequels. But yeah, no, it's really good. I mean, Andy Lau is, you know, one of the best actors in Hong Kong,
Mhm.
and then you've got Tony as well,
Mhm.
who's, you know, probably, I mean, he might be the best for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
They're very big in Asia, aren't they?
yeah,
Especially
both
Andy
of them.
Lau.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So I mean, it's like for the Hong Kong kind of market, it was like the very kind of A-list kind of film, you
Yeah.
know, top of the heap. Then it, you know, Scorsese did that rare thing of being able to, you know, make a film that was as good, or, you know, in its own way, it was,
Mm.
you know, different enough that it wasn't just, you
A
know, a
remake.
typical bad remake.
Yeah.
So he did something interesting with it, and did it, you know, in his own kind of distinct way.
Yeah.
Because it's even more, it's just as reminiscent of like Goodfellas as it is, you know, the original Hong
Mm.
Kong film, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, when did the Hong Kong version came out? I imagine it was in the 90s, wasn't it?
It was beginning of the century. I think it was only 3 or 4 years earlier, I think, than
Oh, okay.
the Hollywood one.
Oh, so it really wasn't a big
So
gap then.
yeah, I think it was 2004, and I think uh, the other one was 2006. So it might have
Oh,
just been a
okay.
couple of years.
So they bought the rights off them, I imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they must have done. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because it was a very lucrative film, wasn't it? Well, both of them were, I'd imagine.
Yes, so I mean, you know, the original one really did kind of, it sold quite well in the West. So, you know, Hong Kong films don't always, you know, travel that well, but this
Mm.
one did. I think because, you know, people had known Tony, particularly because In the Mood for Love had done so well and
Yeah.
translated so well in the West. So he was still quite kind of riding that. Andy Lau was very popular over here as well.
Mm.
So yeah, it did travel very well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But then
And
also
yeah,
is sorry.
yeah, Andy Lau, he directed it as well.
Oh, did you really?
Oh no, no, no. He's got a namesake called Andrew Lau, so I thought that was the same.
Oh, I was gonna say, did
So,
you really
no, he
direct
didn't.
that?
No, no. He has
Ah.
directed, but I don't think, no, he didn't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So no.
Does he live in Hong Kong, Andy Lau, or is he more based in Japan?
I I believe he's still Hong Kong,
Yeah, there are
but
quite
I
a lot of
think
them.
he's stayed fairly neutral from
Oh,
what I
did
see.
he?
I've not heard anything about him kind of getting, you know, blacklisted
No,
by
no.
either side really. So he
He's
stayed
I
fairly
mean, I think
neutral.
both of them are kind of playing it more safe, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, between him and
I
but
think
and
it's,
also
you know,
sorry.
it's safe just to not, you know, bring up politics really if you don't
Well,
have
that's
to.
it. And then also they get work on both sides, don't they? They get work on the Hong Kong side if any comes up, and then you got work in the mainland if any work comes up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think Andy Lau has done. I think he's crossed over a little bit. Yeah, so he's
Mm,
done quite well. Uh, Tony, I think, still tends to stay more in Hong Kong
yeah.
in terms of work. Um, yeah, so I don't know whether either of them will start going over into the West to work more now.
I don't
I
think
think
they'd like it that much, would they?
no. I mean, Tony Lung only really did it because of his kids, I think, and he also he'd been asked so many times over the years, but he finally kind of relented. He was
Mm,
kind of he wasn't going to do it, but then the director kind of managed to get hold of him and call him up and just explain what he wanted to do.
yeah,
So he kind of eventually got convinced.
yeah. Because there's
And maybe that'll be, he's done that now. He's kind of crossed that off
yeah,
and
then
then
he
get it
like
back.
not doing again. But there's a big difference between the Asian film market or the Hong Kong, China film market than to the Western, isn't there? And I think
Yeah.
I remember talking briefly with someone. I think it was Mark, and when we did the '90s, his favorite '90s films of all time or whatever, and The Usual Suspects came up, and Gabriel Byrne is in that film, obviously, and he's a very well established Irish actor, very well known in England, for his career here. And then when he got The Usual Suspect, I think he did a couple or so films over there, like Little Women and stuff. But I remember Mark saying he really didn't like it. He found it too pressurized in America. I don't know. Would
Yeah.
you relate to that on some level, or have you heard of that?
I guess so. I think like Gabriel Byrne, he's done quite a few American films since, but
Mm,
they tend to be, they're either smaller films or they're ones where you can see he's gone there to get the money. So he plays the devil in a Schwarzenegger film. Uh,
so you can definitely see that was more to do with the
yeah.
money, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, he does it because he's playing the devil, so he's having fun, and he's probably the best thing in the film. But
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
there for the paycheck,
yeah,
really.
exactly.
Um, yeah, and then he did Hereditary as well, but that's more of an indie film.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit of a more intimate approach to that. So you can also see why he does that. So yeah,
Well, he's
but
probably more drawn to the sort of art house indie scene more, because it gets more. Well, it's kind of like what we spoke about before about Netflix having better writing, for instance. So you can imagine it as it's kind of like being back on stage. Really, you're really acting. Do you know what I mean? It's for the love of what you do. Whereas I don't
yeah,
know, I'm bad, but
exactly, yeah,
if it's a big film and
yeah,
you think, oh, it's good money, you're gonna quickly you're gonna grab it, aren't you? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And then sort of move on to the next sort of lower budget film, for instance. So you do
yeah,
get a lot of actors that cross over. Um, and kind of actually Colin Farrell did it, didn't he, in Bruges? And he was, it still is, primarily a very big name in, um, the mainstream film business. So you do tend to find some that they cross over if the writing is good. So maybe they just prefer Andy Lau and all the Hong Kong actors, for instance, or China. Um, they prefer to the way things are run over there than they do on the Western side, if that makes sense.
yeah. I would imagine so, yeah. And I
Mm.
think they're both incredibly wealthy because they got. I mean, Andy Lau in particular, he's got other kind of interests, and I believe his wife is, from a very wealthy background as well. So
Yeah,
he doesn't need to, if Hollywood says come and do a Marvel film, uh, he's not going to go there just for the money because he doesn't need the money. So
yeah, yeah,
he wouldn't be tempted by that. And I think Tony it was just a one-off maybe,
yeah,
and he's the best thing in it really as well
yeah, sure.
in that film.
Um, and we were talking about that quickly. I'll briefly bring it up because it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But when the show Squid Game came out and it's still on Netflix,
Yeah,
um, the only person who really, because a lot of those actors don't actually speak English, do they? The model does
no,
a
yeah,
little
because I
bit.
think she works over the world, hasn't she?
Yeah, she does lots of fashion shows and stuff. And her English has gotten better. But generally speaking, when they've been on talk shows and stuff, they've been having a translator, or they've got an earpiece in their ear, so they have someone translate to them and tell them what to say back to the host, etc. In English. So the only one that's been really talking up for the whole show um, is the one who plays the creepy VIP4 guy, Jeffrey something. Do you know what I mean? So, and he was saying
Oh,
that,
so one of the Westerners.
Yeah, one of the
Western actors.
VIPs.
Yeah,
So he's the only one that's really kind of been on a lot of the shows, podcast shows and things like that, and saying
yeah,
actually, because the others are so comfortable and they got a lot more money than him, because he was a well-known actor, but that's the one that propelled him into being famous, if you know what I mean, even though he was around for a long time. Um, but then he's the one that's been kind of speaking for the whole show for the Western audiences, and said that actually the others, they're so well off where they are. They're so well known. They're treated really well back home. They have no real need to want to go into like Western. Do you know what I mean? And it does
yeah,
make sense.
exactly. Yeah,
You're
because I
gonna
think
be in your
there'd be
comfort zone.
something. Yeah. Uh, so the lead in it, the lead guy in Squid Game, he'd been interviewed by someone.
Mm,
It basically said to him, "Oh, what's it like now that you're famous?" And everyone sort of thought that was a really kind of dumb question for her to ask, and sort of really kind of
yeah,
a little bit arrogant, as if from the American side of it, asking the question like that.
yeah.
He was quite polite about it, but he was
But
kind of
he's really
blissfully
famous
upset
back
at her.
home, isn't he? So
He can't go anywhere. He's massively famous back in
yeah,
Korea,
yeah. So
and even
it
to
was.
some Western audiences, he's done a few films that have already kind of
Mm,
travelled this way quite well as well. So
yeah,
he was still recognised by some people over here already
yeah.
before Squid Game.
So she didn't do her homework clearly.
No, no, it's just the classic thing of not doing your homework and just assuming nothing happens outside of the West.
He handled that very well though. He's very
Yeah,
humble and gracious, and
he was just humble. I think he knew it just a little. He was just a faux pas.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So you can kind of understand why they would feel the need to go out of their comfort zone, because they're so well established, is what I'm trying to say, in their environment, if that makes sense.
no, yeah, I think it does. Yeah,
Yeah. And also the film industry, like we've spoken about this briefly, is so different, the way they run things from the English side, when you work on English film sets, to when you work on American film sets, to when you work on like Hong Kong film sets. It's just a different way of working. Um, I think, for instance, the Americans tend to be, their productions are a lot more larger, definitely larger, so there's more people involved. Um, Whereas our side, we spoke about this briefly when we talked about aliens. The English have more time for tea. They have more tea breaks.
yeah,
So there's a different work ethic, is what I'm trying to say, for each one. So you can kind of understand for everywhere you go. And it's like anything. If you went to a different country and got a new job, the way things are run are different. Does that make sense? So you're going to sort of go where you feel more comfortable, if that makes sense, in a way.
yeah. No, definitely. I think you, unless you're tempted by a massive sum of money, it's just you're not going to do it. And I think you know, I know Jackie Chan's, he was very reluctant initially before he did Rush Hour to sort of come over this way and do things
Mm.
because he tried it in the 80s with something and it didn't go very well.
Oh, really?
He appeared in a few things. He was in Smokey and the one of the Smokey and the Bandit films or something with Burt Reynolds,
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
and he did a film with the director of Enter the Dragon as well, which didn't
Okay.
really find a big audience. So he didn't like the way the crews worked over here. But obviously, Rush Hour, they gave him quite a bit of money, and then he, it went well, and he kept getting offered money to come back and do more,
Mm.
Shanghai Noon, Tuxedo, and things like that.
Yeah.
So he had that run where he started to just do films over here for the money,
Yeah.
without necessarily liking the process, I guess,
No.
of
Well,
working. Because you're filming in half the time that you would get given to film a film in Hong Kong.
oh, that's true. Because what
Yeah,
do you think, they're under more of a pressurized environment with the budget and
yeah.
everything? The
So the money is a lot tighter in terms of you know where it can go in Hollywood.
hmm
You're very much more constricted by time. So you've got a window to do it, and you have to do it. Whereas Hong Kong, you might be able to keep going back and sort of chipping away at a film and just keep going to it.
Yeah.
It's less so like that now. It's a little bit more like the American way these
Mm.
days. Uh, but back in the day, they'd spend like 6 months or a year making an action film in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
most of which was just putting the fight scenes together.
Mm. Definitely. No, it is
Yeah,
really interesting how each. I mean, also we have like we can't rule out. Like everywhere is going to have their own kind of film um sort of mecca. Like so you have like Bollywood, and Bollywood makes
yeah,
more films than Hollywood. I mean, they make something ridiculous every year, so they work constantly, consistently every year. Um, and it's quite like astounding the amount they sort of put out, in comparison to Hollywood, for instance. Does that make sense? And apparently there's one called Nollywood in Nigeria. So they
yeah.
all
That is massively popular. Yeah.
is it really?
Uh, yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, even over here, it's quite popular. They've got their own channel on Sky, I believe,
Oh
as well.
wow!
Um, yeah, my brother started a Nollywood film once.
Did you really?
So yeah, yeah. So no, it's popular. I think it's very kind of they like quite simple plot lines and quite repetitive kind of ideas, but
Mm,
it's kind of getting better and better, I
yeah.
guess. Isn't it?
And did you know that they really like white actors who speak Chinese and are in like the Asian film market, for instance? They get paid a lot of money. That's why my dad kept telling me I should learn Mandarin so I could go to China and go to the Beijing drama school. But I was like, I don't want to go to Beijing; it's too cold. But yeah, I did. I speak a little bit of Mandarin, but obviously not to fluent extent. So yeah, okay. So that was the Departed then. So is there anything else you want to say, or should we get ready to wrap it up because it's been a long time anyway? Been talking.
Well, much like making a dumpling, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm actually getting quite hungry. I wouldn't mind
I'm
some
getting
dumplings.
hungry now. Yeah.
What do you fancy?
Uh, well, for New Year, I'm going to be making some dumplings.
Ooh,
So I'll
what
be a
kind?
dumpling making. I think prawn and chive, like
Okay,
Chinese chives.
well that's a nice combination.
So yeah, so that'll be nice.
Have you ever tried dumplings with? See, this is typical China. You can tell you're married. You're basically a Chinese person now, aren't you? Like as soon as we get talking about food, it's impossible to stop. But have you ever tried dumplings with hot soup inside? They're amazing.
No, that sounds very good though. So I'll
It
have to.
is. There's a place
Yeah.
in Shanghai, and they sort of it's like
Oh,
a
I think I've
special
heard about this. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
local delicacy. So, and it's made in a special way because they put the soup inside. But I don't think I ever tried it because there was a massive queue of people waiting outside. I was like, oh, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
I think the Western equivalent to that is deep fried beer. Someone worked out a way to sort of, put beer inside like a pastry or something and deep
yeah.
fry it. Yeah.
Actually, talking about food, you just made me think because everywhere has their own like delicacy or their own, their own thing.
Yeah.
Um, in Yangshuo, in the countryside in the Guilin region, they have what is it? It's fish made in beer. They sort of stew the fish in beer, and it's got like you
Yeah.
can't really taste the fish actually. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's fish made in beer, and it's very it's kind of like a well known thing there. And also rice noodles, they make their own good rice noodles. They're
Yeah.
really good. But
I think
you're
there's a dish called drunken chicken, isn't there? That's
oh,
similar.
that's it. That's it. Yes,
Yeah.
well, it's probably from the same kind of thing, but in a different region. Yeah, whereas Yangshuo
Yeah.
is the fish, and you said that your wife, where she's from, the local delicacy is what that dish I love, and my sister, my dad like making the scrambled eggs on rice and tomato.
Oh yeah, yeah. Egg and tomato. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds so like tasteless, but it's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's a really nice dish. Yeah, very
Um,
simple but very nice.
yeah, because it's basically a well-known sort of staple diet of a student over
Yeah,
there. It's so
uh,
cheap to make.
yeah, and it's just one of those things. You never see it in most Chinese restaurants over here,
No.
but every now and again it pops up somewhere.
Yeah.
Although we would never order it because it's so easy to make. So
Well, that's it, isn't
it's one
it?
of
Like you
those.
could
Yeah,
just make it yourself,
yeah.
really. So, but yeah, we need to have our own food show, Tom. I think we need to branch off.
Food lovers. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll do food lovers.
yeah.
Just talk about different kinds of food from each country or something like that'd be interesting. Anyway, anything you want to say, or shall we say Happy New Year, Gone Too Fast, and wrap it up?
Yeah. 新年快乐.
Okay, I'll say Gone Too Fast. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. See you
Bye.
later. Bye bye.